So here we are in the shop. It's currently 28 in the shop, and outside it was -3 when we woke up this morning. So the fan you hear is the propane heater going. But I wanted to show you guys old and tired, new hotness. So this is all of our, it's cut to size, and we added our lip here. You can see this lip, like this old one has this lip, and that's what is really bad. So now I have to sand everything to get it smooth and nice looking. So one thing that you'll notice is this piece, the old piece, has this little cutout here all the way around the perimeter, and we did the same on the new piece. But in order to do this, all we did was just stood the piece upright on the table saw and then just cut off basically a blade width on all sides, and it worked out pretty well. There is some, like, there's a little bit of a bump right there, but that's not too bad. I'll sand that out. But over here it's like almost not even visible, so that was pretty nice. And then we did the lip with the table saw as well. So next step is I got my sander out, and we're gonna sand this down and try to put a little bit of a radius maybe on this here if possible. It would be nice because it just feels better. And this actually is a seat too in the cockpit on the boat, so we don't want any sharp edges. So we've got the hand sander for these type of radiuses down here. We've got a table sander over there. So yeah, let's try that out. Okay, so we got this side pretty much sanded. Did a little nice radius on all the long corners here, long edges. Nice radius up top. I haven't done these yet. I'm a little bit nervous about how I'm going to do that, because if I come in with this like that, it's not really going to give me a rounded edge. It'll probably just like knock this down a bit. But if I look at the old piece, so right now it's more of a straight up and down. The old piece has more of a rounded, it kind of rounds like that. So if I sand with this, maybe even at an angle, I think it's just going to give me a weird shape. So what I'm going to do is probably just take a bit of sandpaper, put it on my finger, and like kind of run around like that, and we'll see how that goes. But before I do that, I'm going to do the other side of this. So I got to round these corners. Man, that just makes such a difference with the rounded corners like that. It just looks so nice and finished. So I got to round these corners, and then you can see here when they were cutting this or planing it or whatever, it might have just skipped along the planer. That's a reveal, or that will be seen on the boat. So I'm going to try to sand that down. There's a little bit here too. It's pretty deep, so we'll see. Okay, let's keep going. Okay, here's this side sanded. I was able to get most of these chatters out. There's a very faint bit right there, but no big deal. Nobody's gonna see it. And this one's almost all gone. I rounded off these edges up here, all along the side, all along down here, all along up here. Sanded down this groove, and then up in here. So I think what we're going to do next is we're going to take this piece, set it on our new piece, and then see if I can line it up so I can trace the radius here onto the new piece from the old piece. Just like that too. So I know when I take it over there, I know to that machine, I know how far I need to go. This notch is probably important. I think I'll have to do that when we're on the boat though. But this over here I'll leave. And then the notch will be super easy. I can notch that out, no problem. But yeah, let's get that machine set up and trace our radiuses on these corners so we can do that next. Here it is. I am done doing most of the sanding. So I got these corners rounded to match up here. I did my best to kind of round this detail edge here. Got that corner rounded, got everything else rounded. So the next thing I'm going to do is come in with a 220 grit paper and just go over the whole thing one more time. Here's the 60 grit. Was fine to take off the bulk of the material, but the 220 is going to give me a nice smooth finish. And then yeah, we will. Now I'm noticing this. Maybe I'll try to get that out too. That's kind of obvious. And there's a little bit here too, but this one's pretty bad. I'll try to get that out. Yeah, so I am thrilled with that. The next one to do is this piece. So we got it cut to size. The hinge notches are cut out, but definitely needs to be sanded. So I'm gonna round off the edges, round off this, round off that. This one will go a lot faster. Yeah, I'm making really good progress. Now it's time to get some lunch, and I'll be back. Okay, here's our new pieces, all sanded out. I think they turned out lovely. So there's still this mark here. It's definitely lighter. This other one that was over here is almost gone, but I'm not going to worry about it. It's actually worse on camera, so that's okay. Yeah, our other two pieces are here, and so what we're going to do next is clean them and stain them. Varnish, actually. I was going to do a layer of epoxy and then varnish on top of that. That would be ideal, but I just don't have time. We have to leave here tomorrow. The other thing I have to do is on this piece here. I've got to plug these holes. So actually that's a good next step, is to plug those holes and get those sanded down. So what we're going to do for that is we have these plug cutters. The smallest one there. And I have some extra cutoff from this teak. So I will probably just cut my plugs. I only need 4, so I'll just cut my plugs out of this, pop them in there, and epoxy those in. So let's do that next. So I got my piece in here, I got my plug cutter on. We're not going to clear, we're going to clear all of the metal parts. Let's go ahead and flip this on and see how it works. Some of our wood cracked. We do have a little plug though. There we go. A little teak plug. Let's try that again. Now, one of the things I like to do when I remember is save the sawdust here. So it's obviously teak sawdust and will mix well into epoxy to give you the right color. So when I mix up this epoxy and I want to thicken it and color it, I will have some teak sawdust to mix in. Okay, there's the plug that we made. It's way longer than we need, so I'll probably just snip it, cut it in half, and reuse. And I only need 4 plugs, so that there's 2 of them right there. All right. One thing that I learned a long time ago from my grandpa was when you're tightening your chuck. I'm trying to get that in the picture here. When you're tightening your chuck, tighten it there, turn it, tighten the other one, turn it, and tighten the other one. So there's usually 3 on there, three holes to put your chuck in. So you tighten all 3 of them, and that way the pressure is even on all the sides, and you're getting a nice secure bit. Kind of like tightening lug nuts on a car wheel. You don't just crank one down and then crank the other one down. You go in a star pattern, right? So similar here, it's just tighten all 3, get all 3 sides tightened down, and then you're good. So we'll get one more plug out of this, and then we'll be done. Okay, so we've got our 4 plugs there, and what we're going to do next is make our holes that we're trying to fill a little bit bigger. So we got to fit our plug in there and some thickened epoxy to go in there as well. So we are going to just do a little bit bigger and not too deep, and definitely not all the way through. So plugs. Yep, they'll fit in perfect like that. So let's mix up some thickened epoxy and we'll get our plugs in there. Now, one thing to remember with your plugs is the grain of the wood is going a certain way of your piece and your plug. So when we put the plug in, we want to try to match up, make sure the grain of the wood is going the same way. Yeah, so thickened epoxy, and then we'll put our plug. We don't use any fancy mixing containers or anything like that. This is just some an old trail mix plastic container. So we don't have to buy them. We just clean them good, rinse them out, and then when I'm ready to, right before I'm ready to use it for epoxy, I just clean it out, wipe it out with some acetone on a rag, and then I add my epoxy and mix it in there. But you want to get it nice and mixed. Get in the nooks and crannies, get down at the bottom, get the sides. And at this temperature, I should probably mix it for, you have plenty of working time, so mix it for a good 2 minutes or so. And I like to get a good mix going before I add any of my thickener or my colors or whatever, because then I don't have to worry about mixing in the thickener and trying to mix together the hardener and the resin. Kind of just can focus on one thing at a time. Okay, that's pretty good there. Now remember those shavings, the teak shavings that we saved? We'll put some of those in here. Let's start with maybe just that much. Let's see what that gets us. Probably will do a little bit more. It's pretty close though. What do you think? Does that look like our... Yeah? I think we can use that. Okay, so now let's bring our wood over. We've got our plugs there, our epoxy, and it's getting pretty thick just because of the temperature. It's so cold. But it's not setting yet. It's just cold because of the temperature. So what we'll do is we'll just take our little guy like that and just let it drip, drip. That's plenty of there. Do the same here. Drip. Okay, so now we'll take our plug, and I do like to cover my plug in epoxy as well. Just in case any water gets in there, our plug will be nice and protected. Okay. So now let's stick it in, turn it so it aligns with the grain direction, and push it in. Oop, there we go. Make sure it's centered and nice and straight up and down. There's a good epoxy coverage. Yep, that looks good. Okay, so now this, don't have to worry about cleaning it because it's just an extra recycled guy. So he can go in the trash. And we'll let this dry. And then we'll come back and nip off the plugs as flush as we can. And then we'll sand it flush after we nip it. The plugs have dried. A little messy. But the first things first is we'll take this off. We got a little cutoff wheel here. Let's take our sandpaper and sand off the rest. Okay, so this side is not going to be seen by anybody. This side is going to be seen. And so here's our repairs that we did. The plaque will go here. So the make, model, whole identification number, we're going to get a new one made. And so it's going to cover, I'm going to get it a little bit bigger so it'll cover that. You'll never know it's there. So now let's put some varnish on it, get this thing drying, and wrap up. Okay, here we go. So I've got all the wood clean with acetone. Now we're going to put on this. Please remember to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss an episode.